Let's start with variables, one of the most important concepts in programming. And before you learn what a variable is, let me explain to you quickly why you need them. So here is the first program we have written, okay, to make an LED blink. And as you can see, so we need first to initialize the LED by providing the pin number. And then when we want to use digital write, we also need to provide the pin number. So in this program, whenever you want to change the LED, let's say now you use pin number 11, well, you need to change this 3 times. And this is maybe not the most convenient thing to do. Also, this program is rather small, but now imagine that you have a program that is 100 lines long and you need to change that 7 times in the program. Well, this is a quick way to make errors. So here, what we are going to do is we are going to use variables. So I'm first going to create just a variable and then explain what are variables. Let's say int LED pin is equal to 12. So if I do this and I replace 12 with LED pin, all right, now if I want to change the LED pin, I just need to change it once here, okay, and whenever I write LED pin, the value here, so LED pin, will be replaced by 12, okay. So now if I put 11, I have the same program but using the pin 11. So what is a variable? A variable represents a stored value that you can reuse later in your program. It's kind of a container. And to make it easier to recognize it, you can give it a name. So I'm going to create a new file. All right. And I'm going to create variables here. So to create a variable, first you need to give a type, a data type. So among the most common data type, you have int. And you can see when I put int, you have the color blue. So int means integer, and this is a round number. So for example, 0, 1, 2, 3, but also in the negative, like -5, -10, etc. So now you need to give a name. Let's put A for now, and a semicolon to declare the variable. So there are actually 2 steps when you create a variable. First, you need to declare it, and then you can initialize it, so you can give it a value. So let's say I put 7, okay, and I don't forget the semicolon after I initialize the variable. Here I declare a variable, there is no value in it, and here I initialize the variable that was declared previously. I can also initialize the variable here in the setup, and if I want, I can directly also initialize the variable here. So here I declare and I initialize the variable at the same time. And what will happen here, so first, the lines on the top of the program will be basically where you declare your variable. So this will be executed first. And then, as you know, the void setup will be executed, and then the loop will be executed forever. So what will happen in this case is first we create a variable, so we declare A, and we initialize A to 5. Now, when we enter the setup, we simply change the value inside A, okay? A variable is not a constant value unless you specify it. It's a container where you can change the value at any moment. Of course, you need to make sure this is the same data type, so integer. So let's, for example, let's do serial.begin, okay, with 9600, serial.println, and here, before we have just printed some text, but you can directly put the name of a variable, and this will print the name of a variable. So let's name this program variables. Okay, and make sure your Arduino is correctly connected. And now if I open the serial monitor, I will see the value 7, okay, because A was equal to 5 first, and then I changed the value inside A, and now I print A and A. Whenever you use the name of a variable, what will really happen in the program is that the name of the variable will be replaced, or what we call evaluated, to its value, which is 7. You can also use operators like plus, minus, etc. to put a value inside a variable. So now if I upload this, we should see a equal to 11. Okay, so now a is equal to 11. And you can also use a variable to create another variable. Let's say I create another one. So I could create, let's say I'm going to create b, I could create it here, so declare it here, for example, and then put b is equal to, let's say, a plus 4. Okay, and let's print b. So now a is equal to 11 at this line, and b will be equal to a plus 4, so b will be equal to 15. So you can combine variables together, and note that whenever you write a variable, so here I write a will be evaluated to its last value, so the value it has here, 11, and not the value here. Okay, the order of the instructions is very important. Now if I do this, then you will see that b will not be equal to 15, but will be equal to 9, because a was 5 and 5 plus 4 equals 9. And then a changes. Okay, so that basically is how you use variables, and we are going to see more about that in the following of this course when we do the many activities. And now I briefly talked about constant variables. What are constant variables? Well, as you can see, a variable is a container where you can change the value at any time. But maybe you want to create some variables where the value can't be changed. And why is that, for example? Well, at the beginning of this lesson, I used a variable to store the pin for an LED. And the thing is that once you have put the pin for the LED, let's say pin 12, in your program, you are not going to change it while you run the program, okay? When you run the program, the hardware setup doesn't change. So in this case, you will use a constant. So there are different ways to create constant, but here what I'm going to do is to use define. So hashtag and define. You can see here it should turn green. Okay, and then the convention to create variables which are constant is to use all uppercase. So let's say LED pin. So all uppercase and separate the words with an underscore. And then you put the value. You don't put any equal sign, okay? This is different. So hashtag define, the name of the variable in uppercase, the value of the variable. And now you can use that in all your program. And if you try to modify this simply won't work. Okay, so you have normal variables and variables that you don't want to change in your program. So to quickly recap here, a variable is a container you can use to store a value so that you can reuse that value later in your program. To create a variable with Arduino, you first need to declare it with a name and a data type. Then you can give it any value, so you can initialize it here and give it any value all along your program, just making sure that the value stays in the data type you have chosen. And you can create constant variable like this.